that exciting. You know it, and I know it. But excuse me. But creating a strong resume is critical to your job search because your resume is what determines if you get the interview or not. And you can't get the job if you don't get the interview. And today, I'm going to explain the 3 biggest resume mistakes that everybody makes. And I'm also going to show you how to avoid them. But before I get too far, I want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Doug Howard. I'm an engineering manager, mentor, and career coach. And I specialize in helping engineers build all the non-engineering skills that you need to take control of building the career that you deserve. I post here on LinkedIn almost every day, and most of my posts are related to topics like interviewing, networking, building relationships, and just general people skills. And if any of this sounds interesting or helpful to you, then be sure to follow me on LinkedIn. And if you're watching me live right now, let me know in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from too while you're at it. As a reminder, I'm going to be going live tomorrow morning, Saturday morning that is, at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'll also be going live every day next week at 10 a.m. Eastern too. And each day, I'm going to help you accelerate your job search by sharing insights from my background as an engineering manager. During yesterday's video, I explained why getting laid off is the best thing to happen to you and your career. And if you missed it, I'll post a link to it in the, I posted a link to, I'll post a link to it in the comments when I'm done here if you missed it, if you want to check it out. So you can go back and watch the replay. But today I'm going to focus on resumes. At the end of the day, your resume serves one purpose and only one purpose. Do you have any guesses on what that purpose is? I'll tell you what it is in a second, but I want to know what you think it is. Let me know in the comments, and I'll pause for a second just to check in on the comments and see if anyone has any questions or anything yet, or see where people are watching from. Okay, no comments yet, so I'll keep going. No guesses, all good. The sole purpose of your resume is to land you an interview. That's it. And like I said earlier, you can't get a job offer without getting the interview, which makes your resume critical to your job search. And writing strong resumes might seem simple and straightforward, but it's actually a little trickier than you think. In fact, you could have all the right skills, background, and experience included in your resume and still get rejected. This actually happens very often, and it's because of the three most common mistakes that people make in their resumes. And the first mistake is that you don't emphasize your technical skills enough. Remember, the main purpose of your resume, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the main purpose of your resume is to land the interview. That's it. The interview is when you land the job and secure the offer, but your resume is just to get them curious enough to understand that you're qualified for the job so that you get the interview. And this means that your resume needs to convince the hiring manager that you're qualified for the job. And when you're applying for a technical job, you need to create a technical focused resume with a much stronger emphasis on hard skills. Employers only spend a few seconds reviewing your resume. And as they're quickly skimming through your resume, they're specifically looking to see if you have the technical skills needed for the role. And if you don't make your technical skills easy for them to find, you get overlooked and your resume becomes scrap paper for the hiring manager. But an easy way to emphasize your tech skills is by locating them front and center on your resume. Now, when I say front and center, I mean literally right above the spot where you begin listing your work experience. But don't get too cute with this. Just keep it simple. All you need to do is include a bold heading that says top skills or something like that. Then just add a bulleted list of your top technical skills right below the heading. And here's actually a pro tip I just got yesterday from a professional resume writer named Sarah Tim. Her suggestion was this. She said, if you want to save paper space on your resume, then when you have this technical skills section, list out your technical skills horizontally and use a pipeline or a break line in between each skills. That way, you're saving a lot of paper space instead of eating up a lot of that space on your resume with bulleted lists in a column. I'll show you what I mean here with a banner. So something like this here in the, my camera is mirrored, but something like this, just skill 1, then like a break line or 2 eyes or something like that. Skill 2, skill 3. I'll keep that up for a second, just in case, you want to look at that. There is a 10-second delay from me talking to you seeing this as well. So I want to make sure you have a chance to see that. But, you want to make it very easy for the hiring manager to understand what your skills are. And by the way, thanks for this tip, Sarah. This is a great tip. I wasn't going to recommend that before, but Sarah told me this yesterday, and I thought, okay, I got to include this in. Now, as you can see in the banner below, doing this gives your resume a really clean look, and it makes it super easy for the hiring manager to quickly see what your top skills are. And there's more at play here, though. By locating your technical skills at the top of your resume, it actually sets the tone for the hiring manager as they review your work experience. Think of it this way. If the hiring manager reads your work experience first before they know what your technical skills are, it leaves them wondering what your skills are as they're continuing through your resume. Now, on the other hand, if the hiring manager starts by seeing your top skills within the first few seconds of looking at your resume, it actually changes how they perceive and interpret your work experience, because they're already aware of your top skills as they're reading the bullets in your work experience. Another benefit of locating your skills at the beginning of your resume is that it helps make sure that your resume actually reaches the hiring manager. Because many times the first line of defense that your resume goes through is HR. And HR managers don't fully understand what goes into every job in the company. They wear a lot of hats. They need to, kind of have a general understanding of all these roles, but they're not the hiring managers. They don't know, all the technical terms and whatnot that, the hiring manager is going to be looking for. So when they look at your resume, the HR manager, that is, they're looking at your resume with more of a high level perspective. And, they're typically searching for keywords and key skills that were identified by the hiring manager when they posted the position opening. So just to kind of summarize what I mean there, you almost want to make it easy for the hiring manager to see that you have these skills too, so that, you get through that first front line and then your resume actually reaches the hiring manager. Does that make sense? I have a few more tips on this before I move on to the next topic, but I want to make sure you're clear on what I just described. So if you're watching me right now, and if you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to circle back in a minute to check in on your comments because of the 10-second delay. But here, I'll give you a few more tips on this one. When you're listing your top skills, make sure you list them in order. Start with your strongest skills first. For example, if you're a software developer and let's just say Python is your strongest skill, then list that first. It's important to list them with your strongest skills first, because HR managers and hiring managers, they're going to assume that you're listing them in this order. They're going to assume that you're listing your strongest skill first. And if you're applying for a technical position, the next tip for listing your top skills is to make sure you're only listing technical skills in this area. Okay, don't clutter this area with soft skills, but also make sure you're honest about your technical skills that you include in here. Don't embellish. You're not doing yourself any favors if you embellish the truth or flat out lie in this section. Now, one last tip on this before I move on. You might have noticed that I didn't tell you where to list soft skills yet. Your strongest soft skills actually belong in the bullet point statements from your work experience. For example, if leadership is one of your top soft skills, then be sure to include that word leadership or leader or lead or led. Include one of those words in one of your work experience bullet point statements. And to make it stand out, you still want them to see. You want to make it easy for the hiring manager to see that you have these soft skills. To make it stand out, actually make that word, whether it's leader or leadership, make that word bold in the statement. Use bold font or underline it. You could do that too. This makes it pop out when the hiring manager looks at it. This is all subliminal mind stuff, just to kind of make it easy for the hiring manager to understand what your skills are. And the reason that you want to emphasize your hard skills front and center instead of your soft skills, I'll clarify what I just said there. The reason you want to do it this way, and what I mean is, having your technical skills listed front and center at the beginning, but then saving your soft skills for the work experience. The reason you want to do it this way is that hiring managers will will always invite you in for the interview if they know that you have all the right technical skills required for the job. They will always invite you in for the interview if they see that you have all the right technical skills. But you only have a few seconds to convey this to them when they're reviewing your resume. So you don't want to waste this precious resume real estate on emphasizing your soft skills. Besides, you're going to have plenty of time to demonstrate and talk about your soft skills during the actual interview. Now, before I go to the next biggest mistake that people make, I want to pause to just check in on the comments here. I see we got Jonathan watching from Liberia. Hey, Jonathan, welcome. What time is it there in Liberia? And please go back a few lines. Okay, could you be more specific on that? What topic are you looking at me to cover? There's a 10-second delay, so I'll pause here for a second to give you a chance to comment. I'll keep moving on, but I'll check back in a second, Jonathan. Just let me know what your specific question is, and I'll be sure to answer you on that. Okay. The second biggest mistake that people make on their resumes is you don't get into the details. You don't get into the project details enough. I've reviewed tons of resumes from candidates that listed amazing projects they've worked on, but there was one problem with each of these resumes. I had no clue how awesome these projects were in their work experience. I had no clue how awesome these projects were until I actually ask them follow-up questions during their interview. Instead of going into detail about the projects that they worked on, most resumes only contain surface level descriptions of your accomplishments. And this is a problem because when a recruiter or an HR manager is combing through a pile of resumes, they won't take the time to call you and ask what you meant on a particular bullet point. They won't do that unless your resume impresses them enough to give you an interview. So when you're talking about a role or a project in your work experience, you want to make sure you hit on these major points. Okay. I'm going to list them out here. You want to hit on these major points. First, you want to make sure you explain what the role or the project is in your work experience. If it's an important project you worked on, explain what your role in it was or what the actual project was. You also want to describe what you contributed to the role or the project. The next thing you want to do is you want to explain what technical skills you used on the project. And lastly, you want to clearly convey what the impact of your actions were on the project. Does that make sense? If you have questions on this, let me know in the comments. When possible, you want to get into the specifics of what you worked on so that you can help paint a clear picture of what you're capable of for the hiring manager. And this leads me to the third and final most common resume mistake, which is not speaking the hiring manager's language. You may be perfectly qualified for the job that you're applying for, but perception is reality. So whether you're qualified or not, none of that matters if your resume doesn't convince the hiring manager that you're qualified. And in order to convince them, you need to speak the same language as the hiring manager when you're creating your resume. Now, what I mean by this is you have to speak in terms of the hiring manager's interests. Think of your resume like a pop-up ad on a website, and think about how you, put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes. It's basically like you looking at a pop-up ad that pops up on a website. You only have a few seconds to pique the interest of the audience. Otherwise, they're going to click X to close the pop-up ad, and then they're going to move on to something else. The same is true with your resume. Hiring managers are busy with a lot of resumes to review, so they don't have the time to translate your resume. And like I said before, the average hiring manager only spends 10 to 15 seconds max reviewing your resume before they decide if you're worth bringing in for an interview. Now, just to clarify, I realize the terminology I'm using here might be confusing. When I say language, I don't mean like, the verbal language, like speaking Spanish versus English. I mean, like, you need to be talking about the terms that matter to the hiring manager. You need to be talking about the things they're interested in hearing about your experience. It's instead of the things you are interested in telling about your experience. You know, you need to sell them a little bit. It's kind of more of a sales act than it is, you know, a technical piece of literature. Your resume, you know, it's your elevator pitch. It's how you pique their interest. And to do that, you have to speak their language. You know, speak in terms of their interest. Because with such a narrow window of influence, you know, you need to quickly capture the hiring manager's attention. So when you're creating your resume, you know, keep the perspective of the hiring manager front of mind. And an easy way to do this is with a little exercise I like to call "so what?" Like, so what? Why does that matter? You know, that's kind of the idea here. Here's how it works. After you create your first draft of your resume, take a step back and read it with a fresh set of eyes. But I want you to read each statement in your resume, every sentence, one by one. And after you read the first sentence, pause. Okay? I want you to read it through the eyes of a hiring manager. And after you read that sentence, pause to ask yourself, so what? You know, you read a sentence, then you question, so what? Why does this matter? Why is this person telling me this? You know, ask it in a snarky way just like that, because that's exactly what the hiring manager is going to do when they're reviewing your resume. You know, they're cynically looking at it like, okay, why does this matter? Why does this matter? Why do I need to know this? Okay, is this valuable? Does this person have the skills for the job? So read it with that eye, you know, read it with that perspective. And as you read a sentence, and if you ask yourself, so what, and you don't have an answer, then it means that you need to revise the statement so that it actually matters to the hiring manager. So challenge yourself over and over again by asking, so what, until you've created a so what proof resume. Does that make sense? I'm going to check in on the comments to see if you guys have any questions on this. You know, this is so key though, because, you know, hiring managers like me, you know, we're masters of efficiency when it comes to time. You know, we're not going to waste time on things. So we're always kind of just trying to quick look to the bottom line, whether it's an email, whether it's a resume, whether it's a team meeting. You know, it's okay, get to the point, get to the point. That's what's going on in our heads the whole time. So you want to be as efficient and concise and clear in your verbiage in your resume as possible. You know, if you can communicate something in one sentence instead of two, then cut it down to one sentence. You know, if you can convey a concept in 2 words instead of 5, narrow it down. You know, you want to make it easy as possible for the hiring manager to just see, okay, this is what this person's skills are. This is why they're qualified. This is what makes them unique. This is what they've accomplished. You know, you want to keep it that simple. The interview is your chance to make the impression. So we're not trying to win them over in the resume. We're just trying to make them know that you're qualified for the job. Now, it looks like we don't have any questions. You're welcome. I see 2 thank yous here. You're welcome. Tell me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. My apologies if I am, but I want to say Gazan. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. My apologies, but you're welcome for these tips. And Jonathan, I wanted to check back on you. You said, please go back a few lines about 10 minutes ago, but I wasn't sure what you wanted me to cover. I want to make sure, you know, you get an answer on what you're looking for. Okay, cool. 2:19 p.m. Cool. It's 9:19 a.m. here. So good afternoon. And good. Thank you for telling me you're clear. I was worried about that. It was in the back of my mind as I was talking about all this. If there's no other questions, I'll keep moving on. You know, for a quick recap of everything we just talked about, the 3 most common resume mistakes that people make are, you know, not emphasizing your technical skills enough, not getting into the project details enough, and not speaking the hiring manager's language, you know, or not speaking in terms of the hiring manager's interests. And, you know, avoiding these 3 huge mistakes on your resume greatly increases your chances of getting invited to the interview. But in order to land the offer, you need to crush the interview, which is why tomorrow morning, I'm going to share some of my best interviewing tips. So be sure to join me when I go live again tomorrow. That's Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. 10 a.m. Eastern, I'll be talking about interview tips. And I'm also going to be going live next week, every day at 10 a.m. Eastern. And if you're really serious about rebuilding your career momentum, then you should sign up for my free 5-day layoff bounce back challenge. As a former engineering manager, I know a lot about what it takes to get hired, but I'll be the first to tell you that I don't know everything, which is why I've partnered with someone who does. Stacia Gaskin is a career coach who specializes in helping professionals transition into new spaces that are more aligned with what you truly want from your career. And before she was a career coach, she worked in several areas of HR for over 10 years, and primarily working as an HR manager and alongside other hiring managers too. So she's been in countless interviews and she knows the hiring process inside and out. And throughout her career, she's had a front row seat to everything that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to the hiring process, which is why we're partnering together to create this free 5-day challenge to give you free expert insights on the fastest ways to recover, move forward, and find your next job. And each day, we'll be sharing insights, tools, and techniques, along with a few insider secrets, all related to rebuilding your confidence, boosting your LinkedIn profile, enhancing your resume, gaining the advantage in your interview, and pretty much everything else you need to bounce back from your layoff. And everything we cover will be practical advice that you can put into action right away. And we also put together a free workbook that outlines all these exercises that we'll be going through. So if you want to learn more about this free 5-day challenge, I actually included a link to it in the description of this go live. You'll see below the video right now. There should be some words there, some text, and you can click see more. At the bottom of that, there's a link to learn more about the 5-day challenge. And you can also sign up there too if you're interested in doing it right away. So please check that out. I'll also be posting about it on LinkedIn over the next few days, just in case you forget, because this is a high value, offer that we have here with this free 5-day challenge, and we're doing it because we want to help, because both of us, Stacia and I, we've been laid off before. We know how hard it is to think straight. And, there's overwhelming feelings of panic, fear, embarrassment, shame, lack of energy, lack of motivation, all these things that are overwhelming at first, right when you get laid off. And we know how hard it is to clear your mind so that you can focus on your future. And that's why we want to help. When we saw all these layoffs and these massive layoffs in big tech a few weeks ago, we got on the phone together right away, and we started, figuring out how can we share our backgrounds and our resources to help. How can we help these people is what we were saying. And we've put together this program real quick, and we know it can help a lot of people. And I've actually been reaching out to a lot of people who've been laid off, just directly. I've been seeing their posts on LinkedIn and sending, DMs to them or commenting on their posts. And I've been sharing a lot of these tips with them, organically. And it seems to be helping a lot of people. A lot of people seem to be getting good inspiration from it, good help, good support. They're getting good results, as far as tangible tips like resumes and interviewing. So I want to share these tips with as many people as possible. And that's why I'm doing this over LinkedIn Live, because it's a better way to just engage with more people in real time and give you a chance to ask questions. So anyway, there's a link to the 5-day challenge in the description for this live stream right now, if you want to look there. I also have a link to it on my LinkedIn profile page in the featured section. Or if you have any questions about it, you can just ask me about it right now in the live stream, and I'll answer any questions that you have. So that's all I have to cover, but I'll stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions. But if you're taking off, thanks for watching, and be sure to join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern and every day next week at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right. I'll hang around to see if you guys have any questions, but then I'll take off if there's no questions. So I saw a few questions pop up and a few questions that I missed. First off, hey Val, my cousin. Hey Val, thanks for joining. Didn't see your comment until a second ago. Good to see you. Then I saw a question from Jonathan about the so what exercise and asking if I could elaborate on that. I I guess, Jonathan, I'll start, expanding on it, but did you have a more specific question about the so what exercise? The idea is just to write your first draft of your resume cleanly, as you would, then walk away from it for, a few minutes or a few hours or whatever, come back to it the next day with a clean set of eyes. And when you're reviewing the resume, review it with a skeptical hiring manager's point of view and perspective. Basically, you're looking at it, you're in a hurry and, you don't have time. So you're basically like impatiently reading it like, okay, what's the point of this? Okay, what's the point? Why does this matter? Why does this matter? Have that mindset as you're reading the resume. Read every sentence in your resume one by one at a time. And as you read the first sentence, pause and then ask, okay, so what? Why does this matter? So here's an example. Some people will start off their resume by saying, experienced structural engineer with enthusiasm for structural analysis. Okay. If you're a structural engineer, okay, we know it's kind of assumed that you have that you understand structural analysis. So why are you telling me this? You already said that you're a structural engineer. It's redundant. So that's example of what I mean. Performed. If your statement says perform design calculations, if I'm a hiring manager, I'm going to say, so what? Engineers do calculations. All engineers do. It's not really like showing your value. But instead, you could say, like the results that you accomplished. So if you want to communicate that you did design calculations, you don't want to just say carried out design calculations on a project. You could say something about how many mistakes or errors you were able to reduce. If your role was like quality control, you could talk about how much, cost and material savings you had, so produce design calculations to reduce material costs by 20% on average projects, something like that. Like that's how you take a statement that doesn't matter and turn it into a statement that does matter to the hiring manager. Does that make sense? Does that give you more perspective on that, Jonathan? And I'll actually be talking a lot more about this in the 5-day challenge as well. We're going to go deeper into resumes. We're going to go deeper into interviewing tips. We're going to go deeper into actually, I didn't cover it this week. We're going to go deeper into how you can use LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile to actually attract recruiters. There's a lot of correlations with the strategy behind setting up your resume and setting up your LinkedIn profile. Because there's important keywords you want to be using depending on what type of job you're applying for. And when you have those keywords included, whether it's a resume, these keywords jump out to the person reviewing the resume. If it's on LinkedIn and, you're trying to be found by more hiring managers and attract more opportunities, LinkedIn is basically a search engine for people, to find people, and that's how companies and recruiters and hiring managers use it. So, the words that you have throughout your profile on LinkedIn, that's what determines how you show up in search engine results on LinkedIn. So, you want to make sure, you know what those keywords are. And this is all kind of revolves around that topic of speaking the language of the hiring manager. What are the words they're using? Are they saying tomato or tomato? I guess that's a bad example because they're spelled the same way. But, there's, specific words that you want to figure out what they are and be sure to include them in your resume and in your LinkedIn profile, because that's how you get found. And that's how you make it easy for the hiring manager to really understand if you're the right fit for what they're looking for. How can I find the 5-day challenge? Okay. So let's see here. It should be, I'll actually go on I'll watch my live stream right now and see. Yeah. So if you're on this live stream, then right below my video, there should be some text that says, are you searching for a new job right now? Are you making this common mistake? So where the text ends, there should be a button that says see more or something like that, or see more. So when you expand the description of this live below, Then at the very bottom, I wrote PS if you're interested in learning more about the free 5-day job layoff bounce back challenge. Click on the link below, and there's a link at the bottom right above the hashtags. Let me know if you don't see it, Jonathan. And then if you can't find it, I'll send you a DM with a link right after I get off here. Good question. Any other questions? Good questions. This is what this live is all about. I come with some topics, ready to go, so that it's not dead air and me just sitting here with nobody asking questions. But my goal is to not cover any of my topics, because I'd rather answer your questions that people have. I'm totally fine with going off script. So any questions you have are fine with me. Whoever's still here, if you have any questions, let me know. So what, clear now? Okay, good. Since I got no more, and I don't have any more questions, I'm going to take off. So thanks for joining me today, guys. And reminder, if you want to sign up for the Layoff Bounce Back Challenge, check out the link I included in the actual post, the script in the post here for this LinkedIn Go Live. And also be sure to join me live tomorrow, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, because I'll be talking about interview tips. All right. Take care and have a good weekend.